So England does it again. I'm very, very impressed with this saddle. Very, very, very impressed with the Brooks Cambium C15 saddle. Oh man, it is hot out today. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm sorry I haven't vlogged in a while. It has been so crazy and hectic here. I just can't even begin to tell you. Work's been crazy. The city's been crazy. There have been riots going on in my neighborhood, no less. So yeah, it's just been overwhelmingly crazy. I haven't had a lot of time to sit down and vlog, but that's going to change today because we're going to be vlogging. I'm going to be heading out to the mountains today. Yeah. Look at that, an old roller coaster. I don't know if that theme park is still in service. I wouldn't ride it if it were. It doesn't look like a wooden roller coaster. It looks like termites holding hands. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't do that. I'm going up to the mountains today for a specific reason. I'm not gonna go into the mountains, I'm just going to the mountains. I am trying out a saddle today, and that saddle is the Brooks Cambium C15. I was up in Boulder, Colorado to talk with our friends up at Freedom Folding Bikes, and I talked with Chuck, and I was trying to figure out what kind of saddle would be good for long duration riding on my Brompton. See guys, summer is winding down. Due to the current health crisis, I haven't got to do a lot of the bike rides I had planned this summer. I'm not complaining, it's just the way it is. A lot of people have fared this crisis a lot worse than I have, but regardless, most of our bike tours and bike trips have been canceled due to the health crisis. So I haven't really got to do a lot of the long distance riding that I would like to. Guys, a lot of you have recommended the Brooks saddles, and I have listened to what you have said. Everybody that's told me get a Brooks saddle, I'm listening to you, okay? The problem is I'm not as rich as I used to be. I, like many people, have taken a hit during this whole health crisis. Okay, I don't make nowhere near the money because my hours have been cut down so much. I only work 3 days a week right now. I can get by, okay, so it's not a big problem, and I get more time to ride and more time to spend to myself, but the problem is I just don't have as much disposable income as I used to. In the past, I have bought saddles that were 200 bucks. I rode on them for about a week. They hurt my butt like crazy, and I pitched them in my spare parts bin at home. It gets annoying really quickly when you spend $200 on a saddle that is no more comfortable, or maybe even less comfortable than the saddle that was on your bike to begin with. I went up to Boulder, Colorado to Freedom Folding Bikes last weekend because I really wanted to talk with Chuck and get his opinion on comfortable saddles that I might potentially purchase. I told Chuck that, look, I really don't want to buy a saddle that's going to cost me a lot of money, that's not going to be comfortable. And being the nice people they are up at Freedom Folding Bikes, Chuck let me borrow 2 saddles. And he didn't let me borrow the saddles because he wanted me to review them or anything like that. He's doing it for customer satisfaction. He knew that I had reservations about buying the saddle, so he, out of the kindness of his heart, said, hey, take these saddles and try them out and see what you think. In this video, I'm going to give you my initial impressions on the Brooks Cambium C15 saddle. Now, this saddle doesn't match the color scheme of my bike. It's not supposed to. It's just a test saddle. It's not going to obviously keep with the aesthetic of my bicycle, but it is going to give me an idea about the Brooks Cambium saddles. Now, I know what a lot of you are going to say. A lot of you that have recommended the Brooks saddles are going to tell me, Brian, get the Brooks leather saddle. Well, there's a problem with that. I'm a vegan, and vegans don't buy leather. We don't eat animals. We don't eat animal secretions, and we definitely don't use animal skins for any purpose. So needless to say, guys, the Brooks leather saddles might be the most comfortable saddle in the world, but I'll never know because it's against my philosophy to use such a saddle. So the next best thing is to use the Brooks Cambium line. Now, I have a couple of concerns about the Brooks Cambium. For the most part, it looks like a decent saddle. I'm worried about this abrasiveness. I'm worried about it rubbing my pants right through. I usually don't buy cheap clothes, guys. I buy decent, expensive clothes because I want them to last a long time. And if my saddle wears holes in my expensive shorts, that's a deal breaker, and I'm not going to be cool with that. So that's one concern I have. Another concern I have is whether this thing is actually going to be comfortable, whether it's actually going to look good. I'm worried about how this thing is going to wear. There's a lot of little concerns that I have, but I'm going to give it a good try. This 60 or 70 mile ride that I'm going on is going to give me an idea how this saddle is going to perform. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. Hopefully it'll be nice and comfy all the way to the mountains. Don't get me wrong, guys. The stock Brompton saddle is more than good enough for commuting back and forth to work. If you're a short distance rider, the stock Brompton saddle is going to do you just fine. I commute back and forth 10 miles to work. Okay, 10 miles to work and 10 miles back from work. That's a total of 20 miles that I commute back and forth. And I never have a problem with the Brompton saddle. It's when I go on those long bike rides that it gets miserable after 3 or 4 hours in the saddle. My butt hurts like crazy. Now, when I go on a 70, 80, 90, 100 mile bike ride with the stock Brompton saddle, the stock Brompton saddle hurts my butt so much that I cannot even sit down afterwards. You know, you go on a long 80 mile bike ride and you have the whole next day to recover, or maybe take it easy, do some light riding or whatever. It's a lot better, okay? It's not that big of a deal. But when you're going on 3 or 4 day treks, right, and you ride that whole day and your butt is blistered, it is sore, and then you got an equally hard day the next day and the next day after that, that's where the Brompton saddle is going to fall short. And that's why I want to find a saddle that is going to be comfortable for multi-day, 8 to 12 hours on the saddle. I'm really hoping that this Brooks Cambium is going to do the trick, because in all honesty, if it doesn't, I'm going to have to find something else that's going to work, because eventually, if I'm going to get my touring set up where I want it, I got to get a good saddle. That's the last thing I need to get my touring set up, which reminds me, I'm going to be showing you guys my long distance touring setup. I'm going to show you my minimalistic version and my full version pretty soon in a future video, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, let's get on this baby and see how it does, man. We got quite a lot of miles we got to put in before the sun goes down, so hopefully I'll be comfortable all the way out there and back. So nothing better than a nice swim after a long, hot ride. I didn't bring any swim clothes with me, but I had to improvise. I'm just swimming in my regular shorts and shirt. Luckily, they're both fast drying, so I shouldn't have too much of a problem. I'm just wondering how it's going to chafe when I'm riding home. Oh my God, you guys do not know how good this feels. It feels really, really good. Whoa. It feels really good to get in the water, especially as hot as it was on the ride up here. Oh man, I tell you what, it is awesome. I enjoyed myself thoroughly today. It was fun to ride all the way down here and test out the saddle, and at the same time go swimming and enjoy a little bit of the summertime. So I had fun. I had a lot of fun. We're 32 miles or 32.11 miles in right now. It'll be about 64 miles by the time I get home. And that'll be a pretty good test of the Brooks Cambium saddle. Anyway, guys, it's about 6:14 in the PM. You can see that the sun is not quite down, but it's getting there. So I need to head back to Denver before it gets too much later. I'm still pretty wet. This shirt is a fast drying shirt, so I don't have to really worry about it. It's still a little bit damp, but it'll dry. These pants are still, or these shorts, they're still pretty wet. So I'm gonna see how this saddle handles wet shorts. So I don't know. We'll give it another test on the way home, which will be about 32 miles. Took me about 32 to get here. It should take me about 32 to get back. Okay, guys, I wanted to wrap up my thoughts, my initial impressions of the Brooks Cambium saddle. All in all, the saddle did very, very well. I mean, I rode all the way home and I did not have any saddle sores. I thought it was going to be uncomfortable at first because it just seemed a little bit hard. But as I rode, it seemed to relieve pressure on that perineum, or whatever you call that soft tissue region that has all the nerve bundles right below your groin. But I noticed that the longer I rode, it seemed to soften up around that middle area of the saddle, which was really pleasant. It didn't cause any undue pressure in that area, which, causes numbness or causes discomfort. I didn't feel any of that. The saddle seemed to do good. Yeah, I noticed that it depends on where you ride on the saddle. I generally like riding my butt further back on the saddle, and I noticed it was extremely comfortable. But if I tend to scooch forward on the saddle and that nose part was digging into my soft tissue region, yeah, I got a little bit uncomfortable. So I guess it really depends on how you ride on the saddle. But for the most part, I didn't have any pain. When I got off the saddle after a 60-something mile bike ride, I went into my local restaurant and I got something to eat. And I noticed that, hey, I didn't have any butt pain at all. I felt pretty good. And normally on the Brompton saddle, I would be in a lot of pain. Not a horrible amount of pain, but I would notice that my butt is still kind of, a little bit raw from the ride. So for the most part, I thought the saddle did very, very well. With that being said, I know Brooks saddles are extremely expensive saddles, and I'm kind of hesitant on pulling the trigger on an expensive saddle. This particular saddle is $160. That's a pretty good chunk of change, and I don't want to spend that kind of money on a saddle that isn't going to last also. And right now, I'm not being able to test the durability of this saddle. There are certain aspects of this saddle that looks like it would wear and tear over a period of time. I like my saddles looking fairly decent. I don't want a bunch of wear and tear. I don't want fraying around the edges. I don't want the fabric coming apart. And I'm not going to be able to test that in this video. I'm not going to be able to test that unless I buy the saddle and do a long-term review. And I'm kind of considering it, but I'm not quite sure at the moment. But as far as comfortability, I thought the saddle did very, very well. Okay guys, I made it back home and I'm sitting on my hardwood floor in my living room right now doing this video, and I'm amazed on how my butt does not hurt. It actually feels pretty good, you know? So that is a testament to Brooks saddles. Brooks saddles are awesome. I did not have any discomfort while riding. Even when my clothes were completely wet, the material did not chafe against my wet clothes, against my wet skin. I thought it did very, very well. So far, it's not discolored any. It doesn't look like it's wore through. I am concerned about like the spraying around the edges because it seems like over a period of time that would come loose. I'm not quite sure if that's the case or not. There are some concerns for longevity, but for the most part, yeah, very, very, very comfortable saddle. I enjoyed riding it. My butt doesn't hurt, and that's all that matters. For a long distance touring saddle, I gotta give it to Brooks, man. England, you guys make awesome stuff. So England does it again. I'm very, very impressed with this saddle. Very, very, very impressed with the Brooks Cambium C15 saddle. Anyway, guys, if you have any comments, questions, any suggestions for other saddles, leave that down in the comment section below. I would be glad to peruse through that. Slap a like on the video if you like it, and I will see you guys on the next video where we will be definitely looking at some more saddles. Anyway, guys, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk with you on the next one. Bye-bye.